Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I kind of want to get to over the summer months. So these are books that I kind of looked at my shelf and they've kind of been here on my shelf for a while that I'm like, you know what, I feel like summer is a good time to kind of dive into these. So I had some books on my shelves that were like clearly like fall winter time, like they were dark academia, fantasy, and like those I tend to read more during those kind of darker months. And so these are ones that I kind of feel can fall into any category. One of them is they're like historical fiction. There's one like fantasy one, but I feel like it kind of gives off summer vibes just with the cover, and they're kind of all over in terms of genres. So these are ones I kind of just want to get to throughout the kind of months. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting up, I have Looking for Jane by Heather Marshall, and this is one that I just found to be really intriguing, and especially kind of being 1 year post strike down of Roe versus Wade, I think this is a very, interesting and relevant historical fiction. And this is actually one that I had to get in Canada because I couldn't find it anywhere. I know it was like the Indigo, like Heather's pick, and I read like the summary and I was like, this sounds really interesting, but it wasn't out yet in the States yet. But then I saw it kind of recently, so I think it just had a delayed release. I don't know if this is like a Canadian published, oh yeah, Canadian history, so like a Canadian author, so I think that's probably why. But I thought this was very relevant of the times, and I think this is a good time to kind of dive into this one. But it says 2017, when Angela discovers a mysterious letter containing a self-shattering confession, she sets out to find the intended recipient. Her search takes her back to the 1970s when a group of daring women operated an illegal underground abortion network in Toronto, known only by its widespread codename Jane. 1971. As a teenager, Dr. Evelyn Taylor was sent to a home for fallen women when she was forced to give up her baby for adoption, a trauma from which she has never recovered. Despite harrowing police raids and the constant threat of arrest, she joins the Jane Network as an abortion provider, determined to give other women the choice she never had. In 1980, after discovering a shocking secret about her family history, 20-year-old Nancy begins to question everything she has ever known. When she unexpectedly becomes pregnant, she feels like she has no one to turn to for help. Grappling with her decision, she locates Jane and finds a place of her own alongside Dr. Taylor, but she can never escape the lies that haunt her. I think this just sounds really interesting. I don't really read a lot of books. Being from Toronto, like I haven't read books kind of set in Toronto, which is interesting. So I thought that it was interesting, and I think it has a very intriguing and very, important topic. Just dealing with abortion. So yeah, this one I just think just sounds really, really, thought-provoking, and yeah, I just can't wait to pick this one up. So this was the fantasy book that I said kind of gave off summer vibes just based on the cover, and it is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill, sorry. Yeah, like I just like, it was like, this kind of gives me like summer vibes, so that's why I kind of added this one into my little TBR. But it says Alex Green is a young girl in a world much like ours, except for its most seminal event, the mass dragoning of 1955, when hundreds of thousands of ordinary wives and mothers sprouted wings, scales, and talons, left a trail of fiery destruction in their path, and took to the sky. Was it their choice? What will become of those left behind? Why did Alex's beloved aunt Marla transform, but Alex's mother did not? No one knows. It's taboo to speak of it. Forced into silence, Alex nevertheless must face the consequence of this astonishing event. A mother more protective than ever, an absentee father, their upsetting insistence that her aunt never even existed, and watching her beloved cousin Beatrice become dangerously obsessed with the forbidden. So I thought this would be really interesting. It just sounds like a really interesting concept, and just, I don't know, there was just something about this that I was like, this is very unique, and I think if done well, I think it could be very, very fun and interesting. And I do think it is it's a completely fierce, unmistakably feminist, and funny. So I think this one brings to heat misogyny with glorious imagination and talent sharp prose. So I think this one is very interesting. It's kind of has a little feminist twist to kind of fantasy, so I'm very interested to kind of dive in and see how these themes are tackled with a very unique fantasy setting. Again, this is one that has been on my shelf for a while. Like, I think I have like the actual receipt in here, and it says, yeah, November 13th, 2021. So this has been on my shelf for quite a while, and yeah, I just kind of want to dive in, but it is The Forest of Vanishing Stars by Kristin Harmel. And I've kind of gotten back into historical fiction recently, so I thought this one would be, and it's like fairly short too, so I don't think it should be too much to tackle, but it says, after being stolen from her wealthy German parents and raised in the unforgiving wilderness of Eastern Europe, Yona has amassed a lifetime of survival skills. She knows how to find food in the depths of the harshest winter, how to build a shelter to withstand the elements, and even how to kill a man if she must, but little about the simplest human interactions. Her solitary existence is interrupted in the early days of World War II, however, when she happens upon a group of Jews fleeing Nazi persecution, Stunned to learn what is happening in the outside world, she vows to teach the group all she can about surviving in the forest, and in turn they teach her some surprising lessons about opening her heart after years of isolation. And I think it kind of goes off from there, but I do think this sounds like a very interesting premise. I read the Book of Lost Names, which again had a really interesting premise by this author, but I wasn't a big fan of the execution, so I'm hoping I enjoy this one a little bit more. But yeah, I do think kind of the forest kind of hiding from the Nazi setting and just sounds really fun and a different take on a kind of traditional World War II historical fiction. So hopefully I enjoy this one more than her other book that I've read. This one just sounds like just a fun time, and it is A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin, and it just sounds like really fun. So it says, Kitty Talbot needs a fortune, or rather she needs a husband who has a fortune. Left with her father's massive debt, she has only 12 weeks to save her family from ruin. Kitty has never been one to back down from a challenge, so she leaves home and heads towards the most dangerous battleground in all of England, the London season. Kitty may be neither accomplished nor especially genteel, but she is absolutely single-minded. And imbued with cunning and ingenuity, she knows that risk is just part of the game. The only thing she doesn't anticipate is Lord Radcliffe. The worldly Radcliffe sees Kitty for the mercenary fortune hunter that it really is, and he's determined to thwart her plans at all costs until their pairing takes a completely different turn. So I think this just sounds fun. Like, I do think kind of that kind of fortune hunting, like taking advantage of kind of rich people during kind of this London, season, I just think is really interesting. And I do think kind of the dynamic between Kitty and Radcliffe sounds like it'll be fun, especially where Radcliffe kind of sees what she's trying to do, and I just have a feeling they're gonna fall in love with each other. But yeah, this one just seems kind of just fun and just different, so I was like, you know what, let's just read this. It just seems like it will be a lot of fun. And lastly, I have Unlikely Animals by Annie Hartnett, and again, this one has like a very unique concept that I think, if done well, would be really good. So it says, natural-born healer Emma once had big plans for her life, but she lost her way. A medical school dropout, she's come back to small-town Everton, New Hampshire, to care for her father, who is dying from mysterious brain disease. Clive has been hallucinating small animals as well as having visions of the ghost of a long-dead naturalist, Ernest Harold Baines, once known for letting wild animals live in his house. This ghost has been giving Clive some ideas of how to spend his final days. Emma arrives home knowing she must face her dad's illness, her mother's judgment, and her younger brother's recent stint in rehab, but she's unprepared to find that her former best friend from high school is missing, with no one bothering to look for her. Police say they don't spend much time looking for drug addicts. Emma's dad is the only one convinced the young woman might still be alive, and Emma is hopeful he could be right. Someone could look for her at least. Emma isn't really trying to be a hero, but somehow she and her father bring about just the kind of miracle the town needs. I think this is really interesting. I think the concept of the magical realism where the dad's kind of hallucinating ghosts and animals just sounds really interesting, kind of thrown against the drop back of a missing persons mystery. Sounds just like it's a interesting combination of tropes and things that I do really enjoy. I just think, like, if executed well, I think this could be a very fun read. So I'm very interested to kind of dive in, and this is definitely, the cover was what really drew me into this book and kind of read the synopsis to read the synopsis. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by this one. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books that are on your summer TBR are and all that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.